I'm quite worried about the fact that the entirety of your website is completely missing what I would argue is the most important issue in policy. Why does your website, and I know you said you'll fix this, but I want to get a little bit into this. Why doesn't it mention money in politics or campaign finance reform or publicly funded elections on your front page here? You have a link to your constitutional convention that you want to have. We can explain what that is in a minute if you'd like, but it was nowhere on your website. I had to click here. It's not even in like the description. And then I had to go 3 paragraphs down until I found just 2 mentions, one of money in politics and one of campaign finance reform. And I would personally argue that that is the #1 issue above any other issue, because it literally, it infects into every other issue. It controls every other issue. So not being able to, like, let's say you want to win on Medicare for all. Well, now you have to outrace pharmaceutical companies and the private insurance companies and the healthcare industry as a whole. And you want to win on an issue like, let's say, legalize marijuana. Well, now all of a sudden you have to outraise the pharmaceutical companies again. You have to outraise alcohol companies. You have to outraise the private prison industrial complex. It doesn't matter what issue it is, as long as money is in politics, it will be the deciding factor of what policies are implemented. I don't know if you know this, but there was actual literal study done. It looked over 20 years of public policy, and what it found is that over that 20 years of public policy, what the majority of the American people wanted and what corporate donors wanted, the corporate donors the politicians implemented into law what the corporate donors wanted. It was directly in line with what they wanted and against what the American people wanted. So I guess my question is, why not emphasize the importance of money in politics more?
So as I stated earlier, my main focus, I guess I didn't state this, my main focus on my campaign is separating the church and the state. And if you really look into it, the church is behind a lot of these corporations, the ideology, the Christian, the evangelical ideology, the Christo-fascist, the Proud Boys. A lot of them are behind these institutions that are in these corporations that are paying these politicians for all these legislation that they're passing. I look at it as going after the cause, not the symptom. And it is a 2-pronged cause. You are correct there. The corporations and the churches are working hand in hand, especially the corporate churches, which is what we're seeing, the corporation of churches in America. And what happens with that is the money gets funneled into these politicians. And we do need to stop that. And that, you're right, it does need to be addressed on my website. I just haven't I haven't even made a video on this on TikTok or on any other platform, really. I speak about it a lot in my lives, but we do need to have something written down for people to go to. I encourage people to vote people into Congress or Senate, or if you have these ideologies yourselves, to get corporate businesses out of politics to run for those positions, so that when I'm elected, I can work with you or whoever's running or whoever's in position to get this out. Because until there's people in those positions to vote on this, it's not going to happen unless we can get this constitutional convention going and it goes in our favor.
I do take some issue with that. I think we have a significant disagreement there with the churches running these corporations. A lot of corporations are just amoral profit-making machines. They're not run by ideological, any kind of religious doctrine. They're run by profit. I mean, look, that's why you get the happy holidays, which is fine. It's just like, but they're trying to appeal to the largest group of people they can. They're not dictated based on these religious beliefs. That's why you have so many conservatives getting like so triggered over like, oh, well, Starbucks just gave out a red cup with nothing on it or whatever. Like, they say happy holidays and there's a war on Christmas and all this ridiculous stuff, is because corporations put themselves out there as socially progressive, and they're not dictated by right-wing religious extremism. They're dictated by money. And so that's why they buy out. That's why they've corrupted the system, so that they can buy the politicians to create a cycle in which they make more money. I don't think it has anything to do with religion in that sense. I think it has to do with the greed and corruption of man. And we've created a system where bribery and greed to an astronomical level has been legalized. And so I disagree with the church and religious aspect of that. And I think it's solely just corporate and human greed that's then been legalized and ramped up on steroids so that, and they, if anything, they get us fighting amongst ourselves about cultural war issues so that they can focus on economic policies and rob us and run out the back door with all the money.
So I shouldn't have said religiously church ran businesses. That was poor choice of words. What I mean is, if you look into the NRA, they do work with the evangelical aspect. They work hand in hand. So, and then they funnel money into these corporations themselves. The corporations are absolutely for profit, but they have other people behind them who are also for profit, because the church is for profit as well. It look at the wealth in the Catholic Church today. And so they do work together, which is why it needs to be a two-pronged effort to, one, separate the religious aspect from that, and then separate the corporations from law. And what needs to happen is the Supreme ruling where they ruled that corporations, the Supreme Court ruling where they ruled that corporations were individuals, so they couldn't limit their spending in an election, needs to be challenged in court. And I do intend to expand the court once I get into office to be more representative of the people. And then we could challenge this in court and take away that individual status, because they do still limit individual donors on campaign, but they don't limit corporations because of freedom of speech. That seems hypocritical and to a double standard that needs to go away.
And just to make clear, it's not just Citizens United that allowed for unlimited donations. It basically opened the floodgates for money in politics. But there has been a number of other Supreme Court decisions, such as Buckley v. Vallejo and Bellotti and McCutcheons, that also allowed for money in politics. You'd have to deal with all of those. My slight rebuttal: both the Democrats and the Republicans take corporate money. So you're right. The NRA is a very right-wing organization run by money, but also run by like ideology to some degree. You're right about that. To the point where like even like 80%, there's like, I think a poll that says like 80 or so percent of NRA members, like regular people, believe that like you should have like universal background checks, and the NRA is still against it, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of their own members are for it. But the Democrats also have a bunch of corporations that buy them out too. So the problem is on both sides. And I think when the Democrats started taking money, all of a sudden they started implementing neoliberal policies. And it's those neoliberal policies that crushed the American people so badly, that shipped jobs overseas and sent people to war, that illegal wars that got their family members killed, or any number of neoliberal democratic policies. So I think that people were crushed by the status quo of neoliberal Democrats so badly because of their corruption and them doing the bidding of their corporate donors, that they turned to somebody like Donald Trump in the first place. Would you say that, because there are the woke corporations, and then there are right-wing corporations, I guess woke in the sense that they kind of adopt social issues that the majority of the American people are in favor of. You have Amazon, who is one of the worst companies in the world, coming out saying Black Lives Matter. And it's you don't care about that. You're just piggybacking off of that so that you can appeal to the most people. Do you think that Democrats and Republicans, their donors, and the corruption within that system is the problem from both just the right and the left?
Absolutely. That's in the beginning of the interview, I said there were two sides to the same coin. I guess you could say the coin is literally money. Biden is a corporate Democrat. That's why he approved the oil pipelines. All he's concerned about is the bottom line, the dollar, and money on both sides is an issue, which is why I believe not only getting rid of parties in politics, because we already have our three branches, we don't need multiple parties, but we do need to get rid of corporate donors and get rid of their status as individuals. And we need to get lobbying out of Congress completely, because that's legal bribery. That's what they're doing to our legislators.